Before I start, I know you all are a bit tired, so let's have a short quiz. I'm going to ask the celebrity's name, and you're going to raise your hand if you know them. Let's start. Who here knows the comedic genius Kevin Hart? Very well. Now, who here knows the GOAT, Leo Messi? And GOAT stands for greatest of all time. Who here knows the tennis prodigy, Serena Williams? And who here knows the billionaire philanthropist, Tony Stark? Wow, a huge number of hands. Now ask yourself, what is one fear that they all have? One that is your greatest enemy, one that is your greatest challenge. Clueless? Well, even I was, and I don't blame you, because that phrase is like that one question in the exam you never studied for. And to be honest, even I didn't know the answer to it, until I watched an interview of 20-time Grand Slam winner, the Spanish Mamba himself, Rafael Nadal. The interviewer asked him the very same question. Now, an average human like me or you would say, sweating a lot, hitting those lightning fast serves, or defeating the greats like Federer. But he replied, it was battling the voices in his head. Now we know what you might be thinking. What is this voice? Is it Ariana Grande belting our tunes, Ed Sheeran playing the guitar, or Eminem rapping Rap God? But no, it's none of those. So what I want you to do now is count to 5 silently. And just like that, you've met your inner voice. The same voice that was speaking to you when I asked you those questions. The same voice that turns into a grinder when somebody lectures you for the mistakes you did. And the same voice that we refer to for expert advice. But in coming across the topic, off the grid, I realized this voice can be so much more. I realized I'd been so focused on the outside world, I'd forgotten what truly mattered had always been within. It was my bravest warrior, my strongest weapon. It was my very own voice. The voice that lives within each one of us. Its dark side that makes the bravest tremble with a stare. The greatest silently struggle. The silent assassin of my life, our life. None other than our inner chatterbox. A voice more virulent than poison, mightier than the trident. Yet no one can ever see it, feel it, or hear it. To others, it's simply non-existent. Every time I feel elevated expectation, anxiety, and burdens, that voice lets doubt overpower me. Every time that voice yells, I can't measure up. I question whether I deserve opportunities. That voice breaks the confidence I have, the cheery smile I have, the me I used to know. It's like the king of the underworld, Hades. I just caged my voice, and every day those shackles tighten. But this isn't just me. In fact, each and every single one of us right here have this very voice, yet we subdued it thinking it would forever belittle us. But ask yourself, why do we let this voice overshadow us? Why do we not change our perspective? Why don't we see this voice as a resource, but only as a bane? Why don't we distinguish between our inner voice and that chatterbox? And why don't we step off the grid and change the way we look at this voice? And before I move on, can you all raise your hands if you know what venom is? Very well, quite a number of students over there. For those of you who don't know, venom was a vicious symbiote, a monster who took over Eddie Brock, an innocent reporter's life. At first, we all feel the same, as if this perfect life has met an alien invasion and went crashing. But we can't help it because this voice is now a part of us. We can either get steamrolled to sushi or together be a force that no one can stop. And to realize this, all we have to do is look in our rearview mirror and ask ourselves, is the voice the problem or our perspective towards it? To find the answer to this very question, I step off on a journey to discover this voice. And to my surprise, this is almost like a WWE match that I do with my sister every single day. Except the fact that it would just be me beating my own head, because that voice obviously isn't a person. But anyways, just for the sake of it, imagine yourself locked in a cage with your opponent. And your opponent, a savage named Monkey Mind, age unknown, origin unknown, hobby, destroying human self-esteem, and nickname, the parasite. The referee blows the whistle and the match of the century begins. That voice is like blue tack stuck in your hair. You just can't get rid of it. It's at the mall, it's at the park, it's at school, it's at home. It's like it's using Google Maps or a GPS to track you. It could be here, there, behind you, in front of you. It's everywhere. It's like a silent spy who drops bombshells every single minute. Yet no radar, no satellite can pick it up because that voice is off the grid. But what we have to do is keep our shields ready, and no matter when it strikes, we should show no weakness. Imagine this is a game of risk. The map your mind, the army is your thoughts, and every other color is that voice. Second, we all know what does the fox say, but what does the voice say? Most of the time, it's just demotivating, like the feeling of missing an open goal, never opening your pieces in Ludo, or when somebody says caught right before you say Uno. But other times, it comes in various forms. Sometimes it's a perfectionist forcing you to get full in every test. Sometimes a pocket with a hole, never satisfied. Sometimes we're hungry for greatness, for achievements, like a hungry lion. It comes in various forms, and it's our job to identify each voice and fill it with a new and electrifying track. And third, there is always this pain, this lack of confidence within each one of us. But I use every inch of disbelief as a drive to be better. I use every scar as a sign of strength, as a sign of resilience. I use every thought like you can't do it to prove that voice wrong and establish myself. Use every seed of pessimism as a drive to be better, as a burning ambition. And last, no matter how dim, within each of us is the light of a brave warrior, a person who believes in himself, a person who dreams of conquering the stars, who strives in everything and aims to establish his place in the world. Channel that person every moment. Let that fiery passion burn brighter and give yourself that new voice. I did. From the darkest hour, enveloped by silence, to every new dawn. I did. I learned to listen to this voice, just not blindly. I learned not to be a slave of my own mind. I learned to be the best version of myself, content and satisfied. After all, if you let that voice dictate you, is it even yours in the first place? Now, completely out of the blue, but imagine your mind as a big fat watermelon. I know it sounds weird, but two things before I explain this. First, please don't start picturing this in your dreams because they'll turn into nightmares. I promise you. And number two, as absurd as it sounds, it's true. And it actually has a very deep meaning. Because, from the outside, we put on this strong, undeterred person that we're brave, we have no weakness. Yet from inside, we're all soft, fighting it in battles. Our psychological self is too wounded, our emotional armor too wounded to continue. Every seed is a seed of pessimism, and the color red itself symbolizes love and hate. And it's up to us to make that choice. This very voice is the stem of every mental health issue, from self-belief to anxiety. We see so many reasons from them, so I can't even imagine. Yet we forget that one trail which they all lead back to. That one trail that for years we've been ignoring. The trail right in front of us. The trail known as the inner chatterbox. In fact, it's almost ludicrous when you think about it. You've been talking to this voice for ages without ever saying a word. This voice has been talking to you without ever saying a word. You've been listening to it for ages. It's crazy. Have you ever realized and thought to yourself that, wow, there's actually some crazy voice actor in my head. There's no AI chip, no robot, yet someone in my mind is speaking. They're making their own thoughts, emotions, dictating my every action. How insane is it when you think about it? But the blunder that has occurred is that we've confused the fact that this chatterbox is our voice. Every negative emotion is what we're truly feeling, when in fact, it couldn't be further from the truth. But today, ladies and gentlemen, is a chance for me, for you, for ourselves to change the world. As today, as you open the doors of your house, you open the doors to a new you. One that opens windows to optimism, turns your doubts to hope, fear to courage. One that reduces the cynical thoughts, the pessimism within. One that reuses the hope, joy, courage in themselves. And one that recycles their very voice to be the equivalent of Thor's hammer, Captain America's shield, a light brighter than the sun. To end, as the saying goes, your mind is a double-edged sword. One moment, it can be your greatest friend if you control it. And the other, it can turn into your arch nemesis if you let it control you. But pondering on this very thought, if there's one thing I want you all to leave with today, is to reflect on every action you have made, your consequences, your state of mind while you made that action, and ask yourself this one life-changing question. Does that voice control you, or do you control the voice? Thank you.